Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're tackling a massive foundational concept in programming, one that pretty much unlocks every interactive feature on the web. We are going to completely demystify JavaScript control flow. If you've ever wondered how a website knows exactly what to do when you click a button, like, say, expanding a tiny thumbnail into a gorgeous full-screen image gallery, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to break down the exact logic and syntax you need to actually build those kinds of practical, interactive web features yourself. Let's dive in.
Okay, so here's our quick roadmap for this explainer. 1. Logic and control flow. 2. The basic if syntax. 3. Using comparison operators. And 4. The else statement. Starting off with section 1, logic and control flow, connecting the real world to code.
So it's really important to realize right out of the gate that control flow isn't just some abstract, highly mathematical concept. It's actually a huge part of your everyday life. We are constantly making decisions based on conditions. Programming is honestly just a way of translating that natural human logic into a language a computer can understand. Think about it. In the real world, if you pay for your train ticket, you don't get a fine. It's a basic action and consequence. We map that exact same structure directly to our app logic. If a user clicks an image thumbnail in our gallery, well, then we show the big high-res image. JavaScript simply evaluates whether a certain condition is met, and if it is, boom, it executes a specific chunk of code to make things happen.
Now, our source material for today uses a pretty colorful quote to drive this point home. If you take a crap in public, you'll wind up in prison. It's quirky for sure, but it perfectly hits the nail on the head. Common logic guarantees specific results based on specific actions. Whether you're avoiding jail time in the real world or building a dynamic image gallery on the web, if a specific condition is met, a specific result is executed. It really is as simple as that.
Moving on to section 2, the basic if syntax. This is your architectural blueprint.
Okay, so we get the concept, but now we actually need to see how JavaScript structures this decision-making process. We need a blueprint to tell the browser how to check our conditions before it just blindly runs a bunch of code. Let's unpack the anatomy of a basic if statement step by step. Step 1 is the if keyword itself. This just tells JavaScript, hey, a condition is coming. Step 2 is the parentheses. Inside these is your expression. This is the actual test, the exact thing JavaScript evaluates to see if it's true or false. And step 3 is the curly braces. Everything inside these braces is what we call the code block. If the expression in the parentheses is true, the code inside these curly braces gets executed. Oh, and a quick pro tip here. Always indent your code inside that block. That kind of spatial formatting just makes your code infinitely more readable and organized. Setting up a test condition is honestly incredibly simple. Here, we're introducing a very basic Boolean variable, var you like meat equals true. We're literally just creating a fact in our code. We've assigned this variable a value of true. Now, if we bring this back to our image gallery, imagine this variable instead says var thumbnail clicked equals true. We're establishing a fact that we can then test against using our brand new if syntax. And here is what that syntax looks like in action. If you like meat, which means if this variable evaluates to true, then jump right into the curly braces and execute what's inside. In this specific case, it writes, here is the meaty menu to the document. If we translate this back to our gallery tutorial, if thumbnail clicked evaluates to true, the code block runs and expands the image on your screen. But if it had been set to false, the JavaScript engine would look at it, see the condition wasn't met, completely ignore those curly braces, and just skip right past the whole thing. Nothing happens.
All right, section 3, using comparison operators to do the math. Testing simple true or false variables is great, but a lot of the time, especially when you're building functional web features, we actually need to evaluate expressions by comparing different numbers or values. Take a look at this expression, if 7 is greater than 5. We're using the greater than symbol. JavaScript is going to look at this and just evaluate the math. Is 7 greater than 5? Yep, it sure is. So the expression evaluates to true, and the code block writes this expression is true to the screen. If we were to flip that to a less than symbol, making it 7 is less than 5, the expression becomes false, and the code inside those braces is completely ignored.
So there are 3 core comparison operators you really need to know to evaluate mathematical logic in your code. You've got greater than, less than, and equality. You are going to use these all the time. For example, back in our image gallery, you might check if the current image index is greater than the total number of images, right? That way you know whether or not to loop all the way back to the very first picture.
Now, please pay attention to this next part because it's a crucial point that trips up almost every single beginner. You absolutely have to know the vital difference between a single equals sign and a double equals sign. A single equals is the assignment operator. You use it to literally give a variable a value, like saying my num equals 10. The double equals, on the other hand, is the comparison operator. It's asking a question: are these two values equal to each other? When you're writing an if statement to check a condition, you almost always want the double equals. Using a single equals inside an if statement by mistake is a classic way to break your code.
Let's actually look at that double equals in action. Var my num equals 10. Then, if my num equals 10, see what we're doing? We are asking, does the variable my num equal 10? Well, since we literally just set it to 10 right above it, the answer is true, and the code block executes. In your gallery project, you might write something like, if current image equals 10, to check if the user has reached the final photo in an album. But if we went back and changed my num to, say, 8 or 9, that if statement evaluates to false. The code block won't run. The browser just skips it without a second thought.
And finally, section 4, the else statement, handling our alternatives. Okay, so we figured out how to execute code when a condition is true and how to do absolutely nothing when it's false. But what if doing nothing isn't actually what we want? Think back to our main goal here, building an interactive image gallery. If the user clicks the thumbnail, we show the big image. But what if the condition isn't met? What if they don't click the thumbnail, but instead they click the little closed cross on the big image? We definitely don't want the app to just sit there and do nothing. We need it to respond by shrinking or hiding that image. We need an alternative path.
Enter the else statement. It's super straightforward. You literally just write else immediately after the closing curly brace of your first if statement, followed by a brand new set of curly braces. This creates your alternative path. Essentially, you're telling JavaScript, hey, try this first condition. If it's true, do this. Else, if it's not true, fall back and execute this alternative block of code instead.
When you combine these two tools, it gives you ultimate control. Based on just a single Boolean variable, like our old friend, you like meat, our program can handle completely different scenarios. If it's true, we execute a welcome message for meat lovers. Else, meaning if it evaluates to false, we execute a totally different message. If we apply this to our image gallery, if the user clicks expand, show the photo. Else, if they click close, hide the photo. Just like that, you are now controlling the flow of the entire application.
So how does this build into something even more powerful? We've conquered basic if and else handling binary choices, true or false, open or close. But what if your image gallery has a next button, a previous button, and a play slideshow button? How in the world do we chain logic to handle multiple distinct conditions without our code turning into a tangled, unreadable mess? Well, the answer lies in the else-if statement, which is the next logical step in mastering JavaScript control flow. But we're going to leave that specific challenge for you to explore as you continue building out your interactive projects. So how are you going to structure the logic for your next big feature? Thanks so much for joining this explainer. Keep learning and keep building.